Welcome back. When we stop and think about how the exercise you did in Module 1 feels, and you could just think about moments that you had with the person on the left, how did you feel about what you were doing or why you were doing it? And I would expect from a lot of other people's response to that recently that you would say, well, I felt a part of something important. That's because one of the things that effective leaders do, these resonant leaders, is they help us understand the context of what we're doing. They know that as adults, we don't learn unless we attach new experiences onto a framework, a context. What the effective leaders do is they use the purpose of the organization as the context. It's one of the reasons why people who start management meetings with financials are really very uninspiring and usually not very effective, because they're telling everybody around them there's a confusion between why we're doing what we're doing, the purpose, and the measures of how well we're doing. But one of the things, for example, I had the opportunity not too long ago to witness the CEO of an ultimate low-tech steam valve company kick off his annual meeting of his top 350 managers in Philadelphia. And it was really an amazing moment because he said, "Thank you, good morning." The next thing out of his mouth was a name of a small town in upstate New York. And he said, in that town, last year they gave birth to 350 lives. Last year they saved 1,800 lives as a result of surgery and tertiary care. And none of it would have been possible if they didn't have 40 of our steam valves moving oxygen and gases through the hospital. And then he mentioned a small town in western Pennsylvania where parents got up this morning, they got their kids breakfast and dressed and off to school, and they got dressed and went to work. And none of it would have been possible if the local gas and electric utilities didn't have 400 of their steam valves. As he was talking about this, you could feel something in the room go click. And that click was very important because people were sitting there saying, hey, I don't make steam valves. I make steam valves. It was a click of meaning. So with the context being the purpose in the organization, it's what we often call vision or vision mission. And it always embodies some aspiration for something bigger than us, something more noble, something that we're looking forward to in the future, and it stimulates hope. A second characteristic that becomes very key to these relationships, as you were talking about, is the issue of trust and caring. We use the term compassion. We're not using it in the Western sense or even the Buddhist sense of feeling for one in pain, but we mean it as more open and almost out of Confucian philosophy of benevolence. Opening yourself up to and caring for someone, whether they're in pain or they're in joy or they're trying to grow and develop. But the idea is that you aren't just understanding them, empathy, you're caring about them and you're doing something about it. With that combination, what happens is you feel a part of a group, a team, a unit. And when you feel that somebody cares about you, you respond and you don't want to let them down and you care back. The third characteristic that is always a part of these relationships, or seems to be, is what we call mindfulness, which is kind of a psychological jargon we're using these days and something that comes out of Buddhist philosophy. But what it really refers to are things that you would normally say in normal language as, well, the person's very genuine, they're authentic. They seem like they have high integrity. All of those things conspire to make a person who's a resonant leader more inspired. They are more inspirational. On the whole, and here's the question to ask yourself, when people leave your office or leave a conversation, do they feel inspired, lifted, excited? Because if they don't, then you're not being an effective leader. You might be a good person, you might be solving problems, you might be producing performance to a budget, so you're predictable, but you aren't an effective leader. Maya Angelou said in a commencement address at Case Western Reserve University a few years ago, "It is my observation that in the future they will not remember what you said, they will not remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel." And that's the effect that these resonant leaders have on us. One of the things I'd like you to consider as a personal learning assignment to do after this module, there are other resources on the website, readings and electronic discussions that you can and should participate in. But for a personal learning assignment, I would ask you that over the next 2 weeks, in every meeting or every group that you're in, take a few notes, not just about the content, so you're paying attention, but also about the behavior and the relationship that the person who's up in front of the room, the quote unquote leader, what are they doing? Are they inspiring people or not? Take notes about the observations, and at the end of the 2 weeks, compare the notes for those where you felt excited and lifted, as in contrast to those meetings you're in which you felt either okay or so-so or deflated. In the process of all of that, one of the things that I should also caution is that this is a dynamic quality. In our relationships, we can have great resonant relationships, but it's very difficult to have them stay that way unless you're investing a lot of energy, because over time, you can get out of sync. So one of the things that happens very often is a person has difficulty staying as a resonant leader because it is in part stressful. Well, you might be sitting there and saying, I knew this. I know most of it. Didn't have maybe the same words. It's really common sense, but it's not common practice, as I pointed out, that data over the past 40-some years has been showing us.